Welcome into episode 539 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. Bridget and Scott, the Bruins hit the ice for the first time in 3.5 weeks, and it is a 4-2 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets, which, as we discussed on recent episodes, was a big game because Columbus was right behind Boston in the standings. So to get a regulation win was very important for the Bruins to remain where they are in the standings and, even close some ground in terms of can they creep into the top three in the Atlantic.
Yeah, it was. It was a huge game, which is it kind of almost didn't feel that way because they're coming back from break and, everyone's been so hyped about the Olympics that it almost felt like any matchup was going to feel like a little bit of a letdown. And Columbus isn't really a name brand, but yes, for the Bruins purposes and the playoff race with 25 games to go, huge game. And I can just go right into my opening shift because I think the Bruins did not look like a team that was ready for a big game out of the gates. They did not play well in the first period. They're very sloppy, gave up 20 shots in the first period alone. The biggest reason they won this game is because Jonas Korpisalo was very good, especially in that first period, stopping 19 of the 20 shots he faced. Several of the true high danger variety. Ends up with 36 saves on 38 shots for the game. Actually had to get pulled for concussion check early in the second period. Got run over by Miles Woods. So Michael DiPietro got in for 6 minutes of action, made 2 saves. His first NHL appearance since 2022. Because Jeremy Swayman was not dressed. That was a Marco Sturm and goalie coach Bob Essenza decision that they felt like Swayman had not gotten enough practice time coming back from obviously the U.S. gold medal celebrations. Jonas Korpisalo was there a couple days earlier, got a full practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, morning skate Thursday. So they made the decision to go with him. And DiPietro had been around the team for most of the last week plus. He did get sent back down to Providence to play Providence's games over the weekend, but then was back up in practice again this week. So, I would say just an interesting situation and a real show of faith in Korpisalo to go to him in a big game and not try to force a Swayman start, which I think 2 months ago we did see this team and Sturm in particular forcing Swayman starts because I think back in December he didn't fully trust Korpisalo, who had not been playing well at that point. So a good sign to me of kind of how that trust in Korpisalo has evolved over these last 2 months, that now Sturm really had no hesitation going to him in this spot, and Korpisalo rewarded that faith.
And it was almost a win for DiPietro. But Scott had his whole, what was your headline? You had a whole headline written until that second goal.
The headline was going to be Jonas Korpisalo leads Bruins to Michael DiPietro's first NHL win.
That would have been good.
Because what happened was he was only in for 6 minutes, but 20 seconds into him coming in, Geekie scores the power play goal. So Bruins go up 2-1. And if Geekie's goal was the game-winning goal, which meant if another goal didn't go in for Columbus, he would have gotten his first NHL win. Instead, Korpisalo gave one up. I heard Razor joking after the game. He's like, I would have let one up too. He's like, I want the win. So Scott had joked about it. He was like, you think he did it on purpose? I'm like, I don't think he did. But then when I heard Razor, I was like, oh, maybe goalies do think like that.
Yeah.
You get a 2-goal lead and then one's in the net.
Yeah. That one big save too by DiPietro again, it was a huge one. It was a shorthanded opportunity for Columbus. That goes in. It's a backbreaking goal. Huge swing of momentum. So he was in for not a long time, but he made it count though.
Yeah, and then everybody was asking who's the e-bug, and everybody found out that it was actually me. I don't think people realize that. If he had gotten hurt, I would have had to throw the pads on, but I can't do a split anymore. And by any more, I mean I've never been able to prove it. So
Yeah. No, same.
I think it's like, I don't know how many times in that game Korpisalo did like a full split, and I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, I don't know how he did that. So yeah.
You know who the real heroes are the goalies who dress for men's league, because those guys are 45, 50, 55, and they still have to, do those splits at that age, with their teammates playing no defense. Imagine that.
Yeah,
God bless them.
It's telling that like former NHL goalies don't even want to be goalies in pickup games. So you gotta respect the 45-year-olds who are actually willing to do it or even want to do it.
Yeah, Tuukka's like, I'm playing out, guys. I'm playing the alumni.
Razor too. I've talked to Razor about it. Razor's like, I will never play goalie again, like ever.
And he told us that he didn't want his kids to be goalies either, but his son is like a natural goalie, so it ended up like that. But he said he got Bergeron to like pepper him with shots to try to scare him out of being a goalie.
Yep.
So I don't think it doesn't sound like they really would recommend the experience, but
Bridget, what do you got for us?
So my opening shift has to do with how important the win was and how important points are at this point in the season. In between the Olympic break and the trade deadline, the Bruins had just 4 games, and they're in the last wild card spot. And we talked about why this Columbus game right out of the break was really important, because Columbus is directly behind them in the standings. So you're able to separate a little bit from them. Washington now has leaped them. They're only 3 points behind the Bruins, or no, 4 points behind the Bruins. Columbus is now 7 points, I believe, behind the Bruins. Don't make me do math, but so they've gained a little bit.
You got it wrong. Anyways, it's 6 points.
6 points. I knew I did.
Same thing.
Bridget, NHL.com updates the standings every morning. You don't actually have to do any math.
Wait a minute. So mine's just not updated then. I think it just didn't.
She's like, I keep tabs in my own notebook. I just update the standings every morning.
No, so
Bridget's cross-referencing newspapers.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Wait a minute. I'm pretty sure it just didn't update because I had this link open last night on my laptop. So my bad. Scott, give us the real numbers.
For what? Yeah. You mean like Capitals and Blue Jackets?
Yes.
Yeah, Bruins are 4 points ahead of the Capitals, 6 ahead of the Blue Jackets.
Okay, I was close enough. So the Bruins gain a little separation. We talked about how pretty much every time the Bruins win, it seems like everyone else in the Atlantic wins as well. So it's been hard to really separate it, and who they're separating from now and who they're worried about right now in the standings are actually a few of those Atlantic teams, and then underneath that you have Ottawa, Florida. And then even lower now than that, Toronto, who lost again. But
Toronto's done. They are cooked.
By the way,
they came back from break and just got smoked by the 2 Florida teams.
Just so we're all keeping track at home, that is not the first time this year where I've seen Morgan Rielly and Brandon Carlo fall into each other defending a rush, and both times they led to goals. I'm just saying. Now this one was not on Carlo. Morgan Rielly was the one who blew a tire into Carlo in this one. But the other one was the other way around. Carlo fell into it. They're a mess. What an absolute mess.
It's like a Three Stooges sketch.
Oh my God, it's brutal.
But just 2. There's only 2 of them. But so anyway, also so you're saying and this is aside from my opening shift, like Toronto does look like they're probably done. And we were wondering if Florida would shut guys down in this, last part of the season. So do you have to worry about them? Well, they haven't shut anyone down yet, as far as I know. So I don't think that they're going full tank as of right now. But like I said, we're recording this Friday morning. We're a week away from the trade deadline. They have to make a decision this week on what direction they want to go. So that this is the week that everybody's kind of that wasn't sure is looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, we might be sellers this year. So that could happen.
Bridget, not to derail your opening shift, but they're in fucking trouble. Like, I think Toronto's in serious trouble because, Austin Matthews his contract is up in the summer of 28. He continues to be the subject matter of some very negative headlines in Toronto, which is nothing new to him. But you've already lost Mitch Marner. I don't think Matthews is going to be there after this is his last contract, I think. Whether he finishes it or not in Toronto, I don't know. I don't see him there beyond 2028. Marner's gone. You're going to hitch your wagon to William Nylander, who's more focused with his YouTube channel than anything else. And then we've talked about even heading into the year, Morgan Riley is their top defenseman. I don't think he's a number one defenseman at all. So, and they don't have a ton of draft collateral or promising prospects. So I think they missed their window. I think they're in deep shit.
Maybe they get their draft collateral this trade deadline.
If they're smart, they might have to. I think they have to.
I'm gonna start stocking up, and they wish they didn't.
Hopefully, it's the 7th overall pick, huh?
Yeah, right. They wish that they didn't trade Fraser Minton and a first for Brendan Carlo, but it's hindsight's 2020 on that one. But okay, so I'll try to get back to my opening shift here. My point was that they were an important 2 points for the reason of separation, but also giving your GMs confidence heading into the trade deadline that's a week away. And Morgan Geekie talked about it last night, he's somebody who's spoken about how bad last year's trade deadline felt a few times, sometimes even unpromptedly, because obviously it was a traumatic experience for guys who watched, some of their friends and teammates they wanted to work with for a long time walk out the door last season, and they blame themselves because the season, they felt like they had a way to avoid that, and they just didn't play well enough too. So Morgan Geekie after the game said, it kind of feels polar opposite from last year, to be honest. I think this group's done a great job of kind of putting ourselves in a position to stand pat or add guys, whatever they see fit. It's a results-driven business, and I think for us, it's just kind of a testament to what we've done all year and just continue to build. So you can kind of feel it every game. We know we give ourselves a chance to win regardless of who we're playing. So it's a lot more fun for sure than this time last year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so to kind of piggyback off of that comment, my opening shift is, and we'll get to specifics later on, but as you mentioned, Bridget, a few moments ago, we are, we're approaching trade deadline season, right? Like it's here, right? It's March 6th, and we're approaching March 1st, I think, on Monday? Or Sunday? No, actually, February, 28 days. So over the weekend.
Yeah, Sunday.
And, I'm sure that there are some names the Bruins are interested in that we have not seen in print. But of the names that we have seen in print that the Bruins have had reported interest in, so far, I just haven't loved either the age of said players or their current production pace. And so I'm just, a little wary heading into this deadline that the Bruins are just going to maybe give up an asset or two that I just, for a return that I or we may not love. And I think we've been pretty consistent all along saying that if they're going to trade some heavy assets, you better be bringing back somebody with some, some youth and some real upside. And, a pedigree of actual, production at the NHL level. And the names I've seen them attached to, it doesn't really make me feel any sort of excitement if they were to get those guys. Like, yeah, I'm not saying that they would make them worse in the moment. Like, these players would come in, and I think they would make the Bruins better on paper, certainly over the next couple of months. But if we're talking just, I don't know. So there are some names that I haven't seen in print that I've seen people rumor about that I've been more interested in. But as far as names I've seen in print linked to the Bruins, none of them have really tickled my fancy so far. And so, especially when we talk about what you may have to give up. And I do feel like that the Bruins might be willing to part with one of their first round picks. Like, I do think that the Bruins are looking at their draft collateral and saying, we have some picks to work with here, or at least one. And I just think if you're going to move one, especially a first round pick, it better be for a name that I have not yet seen the Bruins linked to. But we can talk about those details later as well.
Yeah, I would say I mostly agree, but there's one name that intrigues me. Not that I necessarily love, but that intrigues me and I think is worth discussing. So how's that for a tease for when we get to it a little later?
Unreal tease. Unreal tease. But yeah, we can jump back to the game that was last night. And, I think that the first period, now listen, in totality, the Bruins were outshot, I want to say 41-23. Okay, so, and they had 3 power plays to Columbus's 1. So, I think it's fair to say the Bruins didn't bring their A game last night. And I think that off the opening face-off of the first period in particular, I just thought that Columbus was the team that was on their toes, and one team looked like they'd been off for a month, and one team really didn't. And I was actually pretty impressed by how sharp Columbus was early on. Now, maybe some of that was the Bruins being sluggish, but I just thought that the Bruins, it was a good wake-up call, I think, for them. So I don't know. How did you guys feel like the team played early on? How'd you think McAvoy looked early on? Obviously, it's been a long couple of weeks for him, and certainly a long few days since they won gold. But they obviously got the win, and that's what matters most.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty sloppy all around. Like, whether it's Olympic guys or just guys who have been off and trying to get back into the flow at practice, like pretty much across the board, with the exception of Korpisalo, it was really sloppy early on. Like, guys not connecting on passes. There were a couple that were just like simple 5-foot handoffs, and they put the pass on the guy's skates, and it's like, man, like if you can't even execute those, like it's going bad. Nikita Zadorov straight up glitched at one point, waiting for a puck coming around the boards that was going way too slow to get to him, and he just like is standing there waiting for it.
Yeah.
Like just odd plays. Obviously the goal, it's a stretch pass up the middle of the ice that McAvoy really like should break up, just find a way to get in front of, and kind of hops over his sticks / a mishandle leads to a breakaway. I think it looked to me like Hampus Lindholm was expecting McAvoy to knock that pass down and then like turn back up ice 5-on-4. So he kind of had already started turning up ice, and Marchenko just gets behind both of them for the breakaway. So yeah, it's quite a bit of sloppiness early on. I did think that the Bruins, I wouldn't say they played great in the second and third periods, but at least started to find their game a little and play a little bit more cohesively and battle a little bit harder. But yeah, that first period was a mess, and they were pretty lucky to get out of it 1-1.
Yeah, I thought maybe we would see some rust from the guys who weren't playing. So I think the difference is like, all right, there's like 3 levels. There's the gold medal winning guys who are really maybe partied too much to be ready right away, right? Like might take them a few more days to get all of that out of their system. And then there's the guys who played in the Olympics who already came back and practiced. Like they got knocked out earlier. They didn't have this, partying for several days. So Pasternak, the Lindholms, Yoki Haru, Korpisalo, those guys who came in not rusty, I would say, because they kept playing over the break. And you could tell like, all right, these guys didn't seem to miss a beat too much. And then there was the guys who were off for 2 weeks. And that was almost like watching the first game of the season all over again, that first period, because it was like, all right, there's rust. There's certainly rust. And everybody came in at those like 3 different points, like I said. So now that that's behind, maybe we're back to kind of a normal, regular situation. But yeah, that first period was like, oh my gosh. It just that goal by Marchenko kind of felt inevitable. And I think you might have tweeted something like that, Brian, because it just felt like Korpisalo had already made like 5 amazing saves, and it was just somebody was gonna score eventually in that first period, and they did.
Guys, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going to add another layer of player, Bridget, to the ones you mentioned. Players that had been injured previously to the Olympic break. So Pavel Zacha, obviously, he only missed a couple of games, right? But and we did find out it was a concussion. Was that Jordan Harris's first game back last night, or am I missing one earlier before the break?
But well, he didn't play. He still hasn't played.
Who was playing for Peeke?
Yoki Haru.
Yogi Haru.
Oh, right. Okay. So Harris has not played since
No.
he's been hurt. Okay.
Right.
No, and Sturm did mention after the game he wants to get him in. And I guess we can talk about Peeke here too, because he said that he thought Peeke had a really good first half, but there are certain things he wants him to work on right now, and he's a healthy scratch, but not necessarily in like a disciplinary kind of way. Like obviously it's always a message, but he thinks that he can do better, and there's certain things he wanted him to work on. So I guess he's thought that he's kind of had a down stretch over the last, set of games before the break, and wants him to work on that, but expects him to go back in. And it sounded like Sturm was planning on kind of a rotation of Yoki Haru, Peeke, Harris, like lower in the lineup or lower guys on the depth chart on the back end, just kind of like rotating in and out. Maybe that's what we see the rest of the way, as I'm sure it's going to come down to like once we get to the end of the season, you have to think a little bit about, just keeping guys fresh. And maybe that's a part of a plan to help with that. I don't think you'll see them taking their top guys out of the lineup for that. But if Yoki Haru and Peeke and Harris and maybe Lorai or whomever rotates out, it seems like that might be what path they're going down.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's pressure on Lorai too to keep his game up, but even in the more immediate short term, like we gotta see what this group looks like post deadline, because there's still plenty of rumors both adding and subtracting when it comes to defensemen. So, I saw people last night even speculating like, is holding Peeke out like a roster management trade protection type of thing, because maybe Sweeney thinks he's close on a deal to move Peeke. And I actually don't think that's what it was. I do think this was genuinely a Marco Sturm decision, going with the 6 defensemen he feels like were or are playing best right now. And yeah, I think I've said in here before, like I haven't really liked most of Peake's season. Like I think there's been pretty long stretches all year where I haven't really liked the way he's played. Oddly enough, I actually thought maybe like 2 to 3 weeks before the break, I thought he was actually starting to play better. And then it did drop off again, maybe like that last week going into the Olympic break. So I'm not that surprised. And I do think that's the kind of thing that, like, when you get to the break and Sturm kind of resets and watches everything and maybe gives everyone's game a little bit deeper evaluation, like maybe you look and you go, yeah, you know what? Peeke was struggling more than I thought. And hey, you know what? The last time we had Yoki Haru in, maybe he was a little better than I thought in real time. Like you have the chance to kind of look at those things. So, because I did also think like Yoki Haru was playing solid, like pretty decently the last time we saw him in the lineup. And then I thought he was okay at the Olympics too. And actually got better as the tournament went on, where he started the tournament as Finland's 7th defenseman and was playing not much at all. And like, he never got big minutes, but I think by the time you got to the Canada game and the semis and the bronze medal game, it was at least up over 10 minutes. It was more like the 11 to 13 minute range. And I mean, that Canada game against the best forward group in the world, like I thought he held up pretty well in that game. So you look at that too, and probably feel like that's a guy who's just probably in a little bit better form right now than Peeke.
Well, let's talk about what it means for Peeke if he's getting traded. Obviously, we mentioned it many times, but if people don't know, he's on an expiring contract, and that's the kind of thing where if you're a general manager, you're trying to ask yourself, can we get something rather than nothing for him at this trade deadline? But like him being healthy scratched, probably not the best look right before that. And you wonder what you could get if that is a decision that they try to make, like, oh, maybe we get a pick for him, or maybe we include him in something to get someone else. But yeah, it's when we were talking about who's got an expiring contract that they might try to get something for. We're also now talking about at the risk of, kind of giving up on your season. Like now that you're in a playoff spot, do you just keep him and say, well, this is what we got, like we need a little bit of depth on the back end, we're going to keep him, or do you try to get something for him? He's kind of in one of those unique spots.
Yeah, what's interesting too is you see some rhetoric out there about the Bruins being interested in a right-handed shot defenseman and a top 6 forward. And you guys mentioned Andrew Peeke, but there's also been, I don't know if you want to call it reports or rumors. It's tough this time of year, right? But it was by the 4th period, and basically, it seems like Matt Poitras could be somebody that the Bruins are willing to move on from as well. So, I don't know if there could be some sort of package deal, with 2 of them included in something else, or if there's if they are traded, if it's in separate deals. But, maybe the Bruins are, like I said, there's some names out there: Justin Falk, Braden Shen, names that I'm not totally enamored with. But I don't know if the Bruins in St. Louis seem like trade partners. Maybe, you ship out a right-handed shot defenseman and a center prospect, and maybe an additional pick or something for some, those. I don't know. I'm not sure what Sweeney's got up his sleeves, but it does seem like there's a bit of a log jam of defense options right now for Boston. Not that they're all right-handed shots, but some guys can play their opposite side, and you can never have too much depth at defense, as we've discussed in the past. But I don't know why I thought Jordan Harris played last night. He obviously didn't, because I do remember Yoki Haru battling Charlie Coyle down low, and I remember noting to myself that that's a pretty interesting battle that Yoki Haru was in right now, because Coyle's bigger than him and stronger than him. And I thought he did a pretty good job holding his own. But Jordan Harris, before he got hurt, was a top 6 defenseman for the Bruins over some of the guys that are currently playing. And Jonathan Aspero wasn't even around back then. So, when Harris went down, so much has happened since that he's kind of finding himself in the 9th floor right now. So I have no idea what the Bruins are going to do with all these guys. It's not a bad thing to have depth, but it does feel like something's going to fall. And when you talk about the rumor of Matt Poitras' name being floated out there, makes me think maybe there's a potential package that the Bruins could offer somebody.
Yeah, let me try to tie both of those things together, like the right shot defenseman conversation and the Poitras conversation. What if, because of like positional need, the Bruins now find themselves with, more center depth in their prospect pool because of Letourneau, Hagens. Well, even though Hagens might end up being a winger, and now they feel like they might want to swap out center prospect Matt Poitras for, and I'm not saying an active guy, like for a 21-year-old prospect who's maybe in the minors, like a Fraser Minton type last year, but in a defenseman. Would you, because this wouldn't help them this year, but would you be happier with that if they got a guy that needs like one more year to develop, and he's already in the minors, and he's already kind of taken the middle step of his growth, like the step right before the NHL? Would you be okay with sending somebody that you've had in Providence the whole year pretty much, and probably aren't going to use during your playoffs anyway, in Matt Poitras, to trade for a right D that might be at the same level as him, right? Like that younger 20s, early 20s, or maybe even, younger, and just needs a little bit more development to become a pro maybe next season. Because those are guys that we haven't talked about, right? Like we've talked about those older guys. Like there's been a lot of guys in their 30s that have been thrown out there as options, and it just doesn't seem like a good fit for where the Bruins are right now. So maybe there's a prospect that Sweeney and scouts and the Bruins organization have liked from somebody else's organization that they're willing to swap some of their center depth for what they need more, which would be right D.
I mean, the answer is yes. If that kind of trade was out there, like the Bruins have a glaring hole at right shot D in their organization, in their prospect pool. I would be surprised if there's a deal like that out there, because most teams don't have a whole lot of depth there. Like it is one of the tougher positions to find, right shot defensemen who have top 4 upside. And my guess is the teams that have those level prospects probably aren't trading them, or, aren't like I would need to know like what prompts them to trade him. Like the only thing I can think of is if a team has a prospect like that who's unhappy for whatever reason, and maybe they're worried that like I don't know, maybe he's in college and they're worried he's gonna take it to 4 years and not sign, or maybe it's just a situation similar to Poitras where it's someone who feels like they haven't gotten enough of a chance yet or something. But
or their need is like, oh, we really need a center. we're willing to give that up to fill a need that we have more. Like basically what I'm saying is both organizations have bigger needs in the opposite position.
Yeah, I would have to go through it. I'm just gonna guess that there are not many organizations that have like a surplus of right shot D prospects, because there just aren't a lot of really good ones out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that both positions are very valuable. And I guess maybe similar to how, I mean, Poitras is a center prospect who's probably not the happiest, right? So maybe the same thing could be said for a right defense prospect out there, to your point, Scott. Yeah.
Would you include him would you include Poitras in a deal that included a 30-plus-year-old right shot defenseman?
Well, listen, I think that, and I know Scott has a name he can mention. Here's a name that I would entertain for that, right? Like short answer, yes, for the right defenseman. And the name that comes to mind, and this is not a name that I've seen the Bruins linked to in print, but it's a name that comes to my mind when we talk about St. Louis, and it's not Justin Falk. It's Colton Parayko. Now, I don't know if St. Louis would have any interest in trading Colton Parayko. I think every player has its price, but we've seen Justin Falk's name out there. We've seen Braden Shen's name out there, and we know that Don Sweeney and Doug Armstrong have their Hockey Canada ties. They were just with each other in Milano Cortina, and I think that there was a report maybe by Elliot Friedman that the Bruins or that they've been talking about things not just Hockey Canada related. So I can't help but think that behind closed doors that they're having conversations about, yes, probably Falk, probably Shen, but maybe Parayko, maybe Kyrou. Like I don't know. And I can tell you one thing: if the Bruins could get Colton Parayko, who I'm blanking on his age, is he 31 or is he more like 33?
He's 32.
Right in the middle.
Between.
Right in the middle. Okay. I think that's young enough, and I think he's impactful enough to trade for Matt Poitras. I think the Bruins have enough forward prospects. I would do it for Parayko, but I want to do it for every guy that's above 30. But I think there's some exceptions. I think Parayko is one of them.
Yeah, and then I'll throw out my name now because it's really a similar situation, but Mackenzie Weegar, whose name has started to pop up in print as a real possibility that Calgary trades him. And David Pinata from the fourth period did link the Bruins as a team that has at least checked in, right? So I'm sure the Bruins have checked in on 120 players. Like that doesn't tell us a whole lot, but if that's true, like then there's at least some level of interest. But I really like Mackenzie Weegar's game. I think he can do a little bit of everything. Like he's a good skater. He contributes offensively. He's physical. He's certainly not as big as Parayko. I think Weegar's 6 feet, 6'1". So, different players, but same idea that they're both 32 years old. Cap hits are similar. Parayko's 6.5, Weegar's 6.25. Parayko signed for 4 more years after this. Weegar 5 more years after this. So, like, both with a lot of term, and maybe that would be one of your hangups is like, is that too much term? These guys are signed well into their mid-30s. Which I think is fair, and like that is my one hang up on either of them, but it's not, especially with Weegar for me, like it doesn't take me out. Like I'm still interested.
Well, right now he has a full no trade until after next season.
Yeah, it sounds like he may be willing, based on the reporting, it sounds like he may be willing to waive that.
Yeah.
obviously for the right situation, like he's going to have say, but
yeah, him and Parayko's contracts are also very similar. They're both right around like $6.5 million a year.
Great point, Bridget. I wish I had said that.
They're both 32. No, sorry, Scott. Sorry that apparently I missed that while I was scrolling through Mackenzie Weegar stats. But yeah, but they're very
today and do the skate pod hosts listen to each other.
No, not I never listen to Scott. I just tune him right out.
Listen, here's the thing. The one thing that we all have to keep in mind is, Bridget, you mentioned the concept of shipping out a Poitras for like maybe a similar prospect to him, but on the right side of your defense. And I think the one thing that doesn't do is it doesn't appease your top players right now, like McAvoy, Pasternak, guys that are in their prime. And I'm not saying that we're saying to do that, but that's the one thing that doesn't do.
Yeah, that's the con, but the pro is that maybe you don't have to send a draft pick. And
right. But the situation that we're talking about right now, where you send out Poitras for like a Parayko or a Weegar, and I'm not saying it's 1-for-1, but like if you're shipping out Poitras, for example, and you're getting back a similar prospect his age, but a right shot defenseman versus a Weegar or a Parayko, one of those two things helps the team right now and appeases your core without giving up a first round draft pick. Unless maybe you do that as well.
How much do you think Parayko would?
Well,
we're talking probably a pick there.
Let me ask you guys this: probably Poitras and a pick, like
a first round pick.
Probably a first round pick. Yeah. Which one? I'm not sure. Maybe. Again, we don't know what right now. The Bruins have Florida's pick in 27, but that could change. But I think that's probably gonna stay. But we'll see. Do you guys? Asset for asset, do you guys view what's more valuable right now to the Bruins, Matt Poitras as an asset, or either one of their 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years?
The first-round picks.
Me too. Like those are more valuable. Like I think so. It feels like the Bruins are going to do something, and I just think that we need to get used to the idea that the Bruins value those picks more than Poitras. Now, they may include one of them with him, but if you're somebody who wants the Bruins to hold on to picks, but you also want them to keep Poitras, then you better hope the Bruins don't do anything because something's going to give.
Which, by the way, and I've said this before, I am not opposed to standing pat.
Sure.
I'm not opposed to just doing nothing and riding this out and letting this team do whatever they're going to do. Let them make the playoffs, get some experience. You're not really making a cup run, but I do think there's value in getting to the playoffs and starting to get some of this core and some of these younger guys playoff experience. So I'm not opposed to that. Like, I'm not going to come on here screaming and yelling if they do absolutely nothing between now and next Friday.
But it feels like they're going to, though, right? It feels like Sweeney wants to.
It does. It feels like he wants to. And here's what I don't have a great feel for is like, I'm sure he wants to, but like how desperately, right? Like, is he going to feel the need to, like, even if it requires him getting uncomfortable and giving up a first round pick for that 32, 33-year-old who signed for a year and a half? Like, is he gonna be like, yeah, you know what, I got to do it. This is the best I can do, but I feel like I got to do it. Or is he gonna say, you know what, yeah, I'd want that guy, yeah, I want to add, but no, I'm not gonna trade a first round pick to do it, and he just pulls back. Like, that's what I still don't really have a great feel for. Like, yeah, I think it's obvious to say, like, sure, he'd trade a first round pick for someone who helps the next 4 or 5 years. Absolutely. I think he would do that. I also think it's pretty safe to say he's not going to trade a first round pick for a rental. So, like, okay, we've established like those two, but now it's like, where's that in between where he would draw the line? Because again, like with guys like Falk, who else did we discuss? Ristolainen, like those year and a half guys. That's where I'm like, I just still don't have a great feel for like clearly there's some level of interest from Sweeney, or they wouldn't be getting linked to these guys.
Yep.
But like, just how high is that interest? Obviously, we're gonna find out between now and next Friday, but I don't know that even he has fully decided that yet.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. I think this is the main determining factor. You have to get a right shot D here at the trade deadline, or in the summer, or maybe next trade deadline. Like that need isn't going away. In fact, it might just be getting bigger if Peeke doesn't sign. So that need is there. Do you think that standing pat at the trade deadline and not targeting one of those guys, you can then just wait and find someone else? Or do you think there's no one that's going to be coming available in the summer in free agency that you think you can feasibly get your hands on and not overpay for, and they want to come here? Like, what are your other options? Like, if you see that you don't really have many options past what are available at the trade deadline, like that determines your level of desperation. Like, who else is available? If your answer is, I don't really think we're going to be able to pay, a free agent, or they're not going to want to come here, or you just don't have that clear person or vision of what is going to be out there a few months from now or next year, like, you need a guy now, and that need is going to continue to be there. And like I said, maybe even get more. So the desperation could come from, we need to do something because this might be our best chance to add someone. Those other options might not be there down the road.
Yeah, and listen, I don't think they're going to stand pat in terms of right shot defense. I think they're going to try to get somebody, because we saw how close they were and how serious they were when it comes to Rasmus Andersson. I think right now, what Sweeney's trying to do is, I think he's just trying to get somebody who can play a top 4 role on the right side legitimately, even if they're a bit older, right? So whether it's Ristolainen or Falk or a Weegar or a Parayko, the last two that I named, obviously the ones that I would much rather them acquire if they could, but again, it all depends on cost. I think none of those guys are long-term solves, right? So I think that because of their age. So I think what Sweeney's trying to do right now is, I think he's trying to get a legitimate top 4 guy, even if they're a little bit older, to buy time so that they can plug in there until they draft that player and develop that player. Because if you, for example, go out there and get a Ristolainen or a Parayko or a Weegar or a Falk or somebody like that, those guys can still play in a top 4 role for the next 3, 4 seasons, 5 seasons. Like, those guys, especially somebody that's like 30, 31, 32, Parayko, Weegar, they can still play top 4 if they're 35, 36. By that time, hopefully you have that true right shot prospect that you're probably going to draft in 2026. So I think right now he's just trying to get somebody to stopgap whoever they draft and hopefully hit on, because draft picks aren't always a guarantee. We know that, especially with the Bruins. But I think that's what they're trying to do right now. I think that's why you're seeing the Bruins linked to right shot defensemen that are top 4 caliber, even if they're a bit older, because the Bruins are hoping that by the time they age out, that player that they don't currently have in their system is ready to go. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I also, Bridget, it's a good point. Like, because we saw this last year, right? Where it's like, oh, look, here's a bunch of unrestricted free agents they're going to be able to go after, and then they're all re-signed before they even get to market. Like, you do have to be careful of that, because it's like, yeah, you can look at it right now and be like, well, Rasmus Andersson still hasn't signed an extension with Vegas, so he could be an unrestricted free agent. Okay, or Vegas could just sign him like anytime between now and then, which if I had to bet, I still think they will. Did Darren Radish sign an extension yet with Tampa?
He will.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, like, that would be an ideal one. That would be like awesome if he gets there, but just cannot imagine the scenario where Tampa lets that happen. So, yeah, chances are, like, no perfect UFA is even going to get there. You're probably going to be like, you might end up in a situation where you're looking at these older options because that's all that actually got to free agency. So, yeah, that is where, like, it's why someone like Weegar intrigues me, because I mean, look, like they were close on Rasmus Anderson, and I didn't love like what it would take to give Anderson that extension. People are throwing out like over $8 million a year, probably for 7 years or something, which would take him into his late 30s. I like that. I'm like, well, I in that just doing that comparison, like I think I like Weegar a little better as a player, anyways, and then I would definitely like that contract more. It's 6.25 until he's 37 versus Anderson. You're looking at, 8.5 million until he's 38. Like I would take Weegar there. So I do think you have to be open to something like that. And I would be like, my interest in Weegar would be real. It becomes less real if it's like an absolute moonshot package and you're talking about like multiple first round picks or something. Like then, okay, I probably get pretty shy on pulling the trigger.
Well, and that goes back to what my opening shift was, and that is like I understand the Bruins wanting to go out there and try to find a top 4 defenseman, even if he's a little bit older, for the reasons I just mentioned. It just buys them time until a prospect gets drafted and developed. But for me, my fear is that they're going to pay too much for a player. And by the way, Weegar, Parayko, those are names that, I don't think those are necessarily likely. Maybe Weegar, but Parayko, I mean, I could see St. Louis. I mean, he's like our, top defenseman. Like that's not Canadian Olympian, right? That's kind of a pipe dream potentially. But like for a Falk or a Ristolainen, like my fear is that the Bruins are going to overpay to try to overcompensate for not having that guy right now in their organization. And yeah, I don't know. That's my fear. Like that's my fear. Like, here's a hypothetical I'd be okay with probably, right? If the Bruins wanted to trade Matt Poitras, and I'm shifting back to forwards for a second, Matt Poitras and their 2027 first round pick from Florida to St. Louis for like a Jordan Kyrou or something like that. Like, okay, hockey trades, you got to give to get, and like there's real upside in bringing back Kyrou and whatever. Like that to me is like he's a younger player in his prime. Well, how old is Kyrou? Like mid-late 20s, probably 26, 27.
Yeah, I think he's like 27.
But like, if you're bringing back a winger, a scoring winger, and you got to like a legit scoring winger, and you got to part with Poitras and the worst of your first round picks over the next couple of years, you have to give to get. And that type of player, even though you may not like the player's makeup or whatever, but like that type of player profile, like that's you have to give to get. But if you're giving up a first round pick for a Justin Falk or a Braden Shen, like, or something like that, like no, thank you. Like but I'm afraid that they might do something like that. And I don't know. Like Don Sweeney's trade deadlines haven't been, his trades actually have been one of his areas of strength, to be fair to him. Like he hasn't gotten swindled very much in trades. He's probably lost a couple, but he's definitely won more than he's lost. So theoretically, he should get more confidence from me in his ability to identify proper trades for the Bruins. But I just think they're in such a vulnerable time organizationally where they just replenished their prospect system, and I don't want them to give away one of those high-end picks because they're too desperate for a right D or something like that.
Yeah.
Where they get that right D, I don't know. That's the $1 million question. You again, it's easy to say with their first round pick in 26 or their second or their second first round pick in 26 and hope that player pans out, but we don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
And then you spoke to free agency, Bridget, and then so it comes back to trade, and that's why we're talking about the trade market right now.
Yeah, it's the grass isn't always greener if you wait for free agency, because it just might not be anything there for you. So yeah, I mean, good conversation to have, and I'm sure even before the end of today, we'll have more rumors that we'll react to next podcast. But they're just going to keep coming at us fast and furious until next Friday. So we'll see. Last year, the Friday of the trade deadline was absolutely insane. And I think they made all of those trades like back to back to back. And I was driving to UMass Lowell to broadcast a game. And I was in my car and I kept getting push notifications. It was like, Carlo's gone. Coyle's gone.
Yeah.
Just like waiting for the, the next shoe to drop. But like Morgan Geekie said, it feels like a polar opposite situation for them right now. And they're not feeling quite as bad in the room. Confidence seems to be pretty good. Finish out the next 3 games before the deadline strong. And I think, Sweeney's already made up his mind on not selling. So it just depends on how much buying is done, I think.
Can I ask you guys an unfair question?
Oh, great. Yeah, I love unfair questions.
Sorry, but just before you do, like, just to reiterate, though, like, selling and buying, doing a little bit of both, very much in play. Sweeney, Sweeney said that himself on Nesson last night. So
I mean, like full sell, like
right.
All right, unfair question time.
Yay!
If you had to say right now, do you? And this doesn't have to be your personal preference or anything like that. Just based on your a gut instinct, a gut feeling. Do you think it's more likely than not that Poitras is not a Bruin post March 6th? Or do you think it's more likely he's still in the organization post March 6th?
I think it's more likely he's still here, but it's like, in my mind, it's like 60-40, 65-35, like something like that. Like there's still like a pretty decent chance he's gone.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's slightly more that he's here. Also, remember when we were talking about the trade rumors earlier, Lohrei was involved in those. Like, and Lohrei was somebody who was like, you remember on the siblings trip.
Yeah,
he scores, and it's like, okay, that was right when the deal was going to go down, and it's like he is in like rumors in this trade talk, and he all of a sudden, like, you don't hear that, but like I feel like he's going to come back up at some point.
He could, and Bridget, you're right to bring him up, but let us not forget, if Rasmus Andersson was willing to sign an extension in Boston, Lohrei wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah. He would have got in the middle of the siblings trip.
He'd be gone.
And again, and like that's important. Like, if Weegar is going to be available and the Bruins are checking in on him, it's like them and the Flames already have a really good starting point in negotiations because they literally already did this season. So, like, you already know, Don Sweeney already knows exactly which pieces the Flames are interested in. The Flames have already done all their homework on Bruins prospects, and they know their picks and like all that. Like, so that could be a negotiation that happens quickly if Flames decide, you know what, okay, we are listening to offers and Weegar's open to coming to Boston. Like, yes, it's a different player and the package probably ultimately looks a little differently, but you already know everything you need to know about the other side and where they're coming from.
I want to give a shout out to a couple of players right now who I do think played really well last night, all things considered, coming off the break, and had been talked about a lot throughout the last year when it comes to trades, and that is Casey Middlestad, who I thought he played a pretty strong game last night. Again, his checking game to me has been better and more noticeable than it was last year when he came over from Colorado. But Victor Arvidsson too. Like, Arvidsson is, you want to talk about a guy who, man, he's playing great for Boston, and that's awesome. All I'm gonna say is, like, not for nothing, he could be very, very valuable to the Bruins, continue to be so, or he could be viewed as somebody whose stock is probably higher than maybe, or as high as Sweeney and company hoped it would possibly be when they brought him in on the last year of his deal. It's just an interesting story to continue to follow, because if they decide to move him, I very much understand why people would be, skeptical of that and what that could bring. But I also can't help but think that his value is pretty high right now. And you could say good, then the Bruins should keep him for their own run. And it's an wide open Eastern Conference, and Well, I see all sides. I'm just saying his value is getting higher and higher than, I don't know. It's just something worth keeping an eye on when Scott mentions that they're going to both buy and sell, or they could both buy and sell. I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting story.
I'll say Sturm loves him.
I know.
Yeah.
And I think
and his teammates really seem to like him too. So like Sturm, I think would be really, really upset if he goes at the.
I don't think the Bruins. I don't think the players, the coaches. I don't think anybody wants to see him go. But it can be a cutthroat business. And if somebody, I don't know if this is going to happen. If somebody floats out a first rounder for him, that's what keeps coming back to my mind with Arvidsson. Is like, I just think it makes the Bruins. A lot of Bruins fans out there would hear first round pick for Arvidsson, and you take that and you run to the bank. And I understand where they're coming from. Like the idea that last summer that you traded for Arvidsson's in the final year of his contract, coming off of a couple of down seasons, an older guy. If you told any of us then that the Bruins would get a first round pick for him in 9 months, I think this entire panel would say you take that and you run. But because you see it all play out on the ice, and you see, that there's a human element to these things, it makes you more trepidatious. Like, I don't want to mess with the room, and he's doing a good job for the team, and he is all of those things. But I can't help but think if somebody puts a first round pick on the table for the Bruins, for Arvidsson, like I just, how do you walk away from a first rounder for him? It's so hard to do that.
Well, you would have flipped a 5th round pick, which is what they gave for him, to a first round pick, which is a huge flip.
And this is if somebody does that. I'm not saying anybody will, but if.
Yeah, it is good business. Like there's no question about that. I would just say I think Sweeney would probably feel this way too. Like you almost have to have an upgrade lined up, right? And it can be someone younger and with more term. We just mentioned Jordan Kyrou, like maybe someone like that. But if they trade away Victor Arvidsson and do not add anything up front, and again, maybe people don't care about this, I just think that's going to go over so poorly in that room and with Marco Sturm. Like, they're going to feel like you just ripped the rug out from under them. Like, what did we just do this season for? Like, why did we just do this? We've done everything you've asked of us. We're in a playoff spot. We've shown we can compete with better teams. And then you just traded a guy who's tied for 2nd on the team in 5-on-5 goals, 3rd on the team in 5-on-5 points, and we did nothing to replace him. Like, yeah, objectively, trading a 5th round pick to get him and flipping him for a first is good business. Just inarguable, it is.
And he would,
but there are other considerations here. Like, Marco Sturm's a first-year head coach who looks pretty good. He, as Bridget said, he clearly loves Arvidsson. He's called him the engine of that second line, which has been their most consistent line all season. You trade him away, like, I'm just saying, like, you're risking pissing off your first-year coach that you hope has a bright future.
And by the way, you say that Arvidsson's 2nd in 5-on-5 goals. He also missed a bunch of time with injury. So, like, without that, he would be even higher up on that list. And even when he did come back and start playing, when he wasn't fully healthy, Sturm addressed this last night, he's finally fully 100% now. But, if they had 100% Arvidsson the whole season, those numbers will be even higher. So, it seems like he's also in a really good spot right now. So he's contributing at a pretty high rate in the final stretch of the season. He's obviously valuable if you wanted to, let the team just have at it and go at the playoffs. He's somebody that could make or break whether or not you have success there. But either way, I think we would probably sit here after, if he was traded, and say, if they got a first round pick, and say, it sucks, but I think it's ultimately better, because it would be one thing if this team was a Stanley Cup favorite or contender. And we have to just remind ourselves, like, yes, obviously he is liked by Sturm. He is liked by teammates, but if he can help your future, in that you get an asset, a first round asset for him, in a year where you probably weren't going to make a deep run. I think that maybe is still the best option. I don't know. I could be convinced either way.
Well, and these guys know it's a business. At the end of the day, like you're never gonna make everybody happy. Like I just think that he's got 30 points in 46 games for the Bruins, which is great. And he's a water bug out there, and he works his ass off. And like this is I'm very, very pleased with what he's meant to the Bruins. I just think that, especially if the Bruins have another trick up their sleeve where they might have to part with a first round pick to potentially bring in something for a position of need, like we've talked about, or a true younger forward. And, you can bring back a first round pick. It makes it easier to stomach giving up one potentially in a package for something bigger. So, there's layers to it. Again, this might all be moot. Like Victor Arvidsson very well may not be on the table. Like people might not be offering the Bruins a first round pick for him at all. So like, I'm just bringing up the hypothetical. It's something to keep an eye on. It's fascinating. Like 30 points in 46 games, and he's playing some of his best hockey with the trade deadline a few weeks away. And, I don't know. I feel like this is the most interesting. Like Arvidsson could have came here and done shit, and this wouldn't be a conversation. Like it's funny that like he's literally presenting the hypothetical that we all were best case hoping for. Hey, maybe you bring him in. We all said in the summer, why do they trade for Victor Arvidsson, an aging player who has had a couple of down years? Like why? And the first thing you heard people say was, well, maybe you can resurrect him and flip him at the deadline for something.
That's exactly what I thought. Like that was exactly what I said. And it's like he like resurrected himself too well. And now you're like, damn, I think I want to hold on to Victor Arvidsson here.
Sign him to a 6-year extension. Lock up till he's 40.
And like, by the way, just should almost go without saying, but like, massive credit to Victor Arvidsson for having this season and getting himself back on track. You guys want a little trivia from the Scott McLaughlin stats desk?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Guess who leads the NHL in 5-on-5 primary assists this season?
I mean, is it
the
Arvidsson?
answer supposed to be Victor Arvidsson? It feels like a leading question.
It's not Victor Arvidsson.
Okay. But he's going to be up there, otherwise.
Who leads the NHL in 5-on-5 primary assists?
Pastrnak?
Ding, ding, ding. David Pastrnak.
Wow.
With 22. Nathan McKinnon second with 20.
We should mention a lot of those have come to Morgan Geekie, who did tie his career high in goals, which he set last year. Obviously he's set to blow that out of the water. I mean, I like 45 for Geekie seem legit. Another 13 goals over the last,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, maybe even more, right? Like he's been scoring at a higher pace than that, so maybe high 40s.
Yeah,
I would say 50 is still not totally out of the question, although unlikely at this point. Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to 47.
And the fact that we're talking about a potential 50-goal season for Morgan Geekie when 2 calendar years ago the Bruins brought him in from Seattle, and all that anybody knew about him was that he played for Carolina for a cup of coffee and then was taken in an expansion draft. It's like even his first year in Boston, like he was pretty quiet until like the second half of the year, and he started to get some reps with Pastrnak, and I think he was even with Pastrnak and Zacha in the playoffs. But and then we all know he had a slow start the following season, and then just took off. The last calendar plus, it's just been insane. Wow, good for him.
Also with the assist on that goal, David Pastrnak now has his 4th straight 50 assist season. Had not done that his first 8 years in the NHL, and has now done it 4 years in a row.
Yeah. I wanted to note that too, because I was like, 50. It's a nice round number for Pasta. So with what 24 games left, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of time.
Did McAvoy get a point last night? Yeah, he got an assist. So he's got a long point streak going right now too. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-game point streak for McAvoy, I think.
That sounds right.
But he's been producing. I mean, you look at his game log dating back to December 31st when the Bruins snapped their 6-game losing streak against the Oilers on New Year's Eve, and McAvoy's only gone 2 games without registering a point in that stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think he's a point per game or over a point per game during that time.
Yeah, definitely over a point per game. So any final thoughts from the two of you before we sign out here?
What did you guys think of the way the Bruins honored their Olympians?
Oh, Scott, I know Scott's answer to this.
I thought it was appropriate. It obviously wasn't as much of a show as we've seen some other organizations do, but yeah, maybe a tad underwhelming. I actually thought there was going to be a pregame ceremony or something pregame, but it wasn't. It was during the first TV timeout, right before the Charlie Coyle tribute, which had to come a timeout later.
Yeah, I think I know Scott's issue was that they mixed in all of the Olympians and not just like congratulating the
true
the medalists. Like, I mean, they showed Pasternak on the bench, like looking down, like he didn't even know he was on the jumbotron at one point at the end. So yeah, like maybe they overdid it in terms of like trying to give credit to too many of the guys. I don't know.
What did they do? Show Korpisalo on the bench, like for Finland?
I was surprised. I thought it missed the mark, to be completely honest. Like, I think that place was ready to explode in celebration of McAvoy, Swayman, and the U.S. winning gold. They were chanting USA, USA at the end of the anthem. I thought I was expecting something pregame like we've seen in other cities where you're an American city, like you celebrate the U.S. winning gold. You celebrate your 2 guys who did it. And yeah, I get that's probably, not going to be super comfortable for your non-American Olympians, but like, I don't know if this is harsh, but like, oh, well, like to me, you celebrate the winning, you celebrate the gold. Like, I thought that was, I thought that place was, it felt like it was like just waiting to explode in celebration of that. And instead it's kind of just this muted reaction where it's polite, like people are clapping, but you're honoring everyone who went on both teams, by the way. Like they show Elvis Merzlikins, who was Latvia's goalie, and again, like I get it. That's like the quote unquote classier approach. Like, make sure you honor everyone more. Maybe that's more spirit of the Olympics. I was just a little surprised. I thought that was a situation where it was worth celebrating your guys who won gold.
Yeah, and Werenski, right? Like he got a big cheer actually when they put him on, because of him winning gold with the US. So
somebody in the Bruins like PR and marketing, they're like, "Hey, so Don, we're thinking about honoring the US gold Olympians. Let's just do everybody. Do everybody." It's like he's like sour about losing. I mean, hey, I don't know that.
He's like, make sure you show any assistant GMs who are at the Olympics too.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
He comes on the jumbotron. He's just waving. He's just like, I was there.
By the way,
I will say, speaking of Sweeney, he
this is where I was going with it.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. We're talking to McAvoy after Thursday's morning skate, and Sweeney actually interrupted the media scrum to congratulate McAvoy because he literally had not seen him in person yet since McAvoy got back. So, just interjected himself right through like 4 rows of media members.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Let me ask you guys a question. How frequently does Don Sweeney go into the Warrior locker room after practice? I feel like you could have seen him after the scrum. You got to hop into the media so that everyone's filming it. It seems a little contrived to me.
Um,
A little contrived, Scott. Come on.
yeah, I mean,
Little show.
maybe. I didn't have any issue with it. Like,
No, I have no issue. I have no
yeah.
issue. But when I saw that, the first thing I thought was like, I mean, maybe you'll see him when media is over. Like, I don't know. I just I have no issue with it. I just thought it was funny. I was like, yeah, that seems a little premeditated by Donnie there. But anyway. Yeah, I now that you mentioned it, Scott, I do think it was maybe a little bit underwhelming for sure. I was kind of in the middle of finishing cooking dinner and when the game started, so I was kind of like not paying all the attention to that moment. But now that you mention it, yeah, I mean they did show Jack Hughes' goal on the jumbotron at the end, and McAvoy and Swayman and Werenski I think stood up, but yeah,
I also I almost felt bad because like they're showing every player playing, but it's like Hampus Lindholm played like 10 total minutes, and his highlight was like a 10-foot pass on the breakout.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's like you have like the U.S. guys like the gold medal celebration. Yeah, they showed Jack Hughes' goal, and then it's like Hampus Lindholm. Here's a very basic breakout pass.
Yeah, it's
Same with you. How are you?
It's a hooking minor for Lindholm.
Yeah, they could have won that.
He's like waving to the crowd. Thank you.
Oh, Elias Lindholm. They showed him winning a face-off.
Yeah,
that was before he got benched for the last 40 minutes of the American game.
And like that's kind of what I mean, though. I'm like, let's be real. Like, you don't have to show that. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you just don't have to do that.
Did they show Losh Melis's goal?
No, actually, I don't think they showed Losh Melis.
Yeah, he was down in Providence, so they figured to show him. But he's not watching on TV. Come on. Okay, Bridget, any final thoughts from you?
Not really. No.
Got
a BU broadcast tonight. BU BC men. Hagens is playing really well. Playing really well.
A weekend. I wish I was more excited for. I fear very much how this weekend's going to go for BU. Two games against BC, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, listen, watching James Hagens right now, the level he's been playing at is a blast, and obviously Dean Letourneau is playing really well too, and Andre Gasso putting up a ton of points for BC. But yeah, I mean, Hagens is like, he has now taken the step that I think everyone hoped he was going to take as a sophomore. So he's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he's the Hockey East leader in goals now, and he's done most of it as a winger. I don't know if that makes people feel better or worse, but he has been doing it on the left wing.
Yeah, it's very and even a little bit of right wing. He's even lined up on the right side on his off wing a couple times recently. Yeah, it's interesting to say the least.
So anyway, tune into my broadcast tonight. I will be talking a little bit of Hagens, a little Letourneau. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities or plenty of things to say about them because I tend to do a lot in the games. They play a lot of minutes. They're front and center in the scoring. Hagens is first in Hockey East in goals. Letourneau is second in Hockey East in goals, which I don't think we would have really had in the card. We wouldn't have seen that in the crystal ball. But yeah, it should be a good game. BCBU is always a good rivalry. BC has won the first two meetings. BU, they play on ESPN Plus tonight. That's the game I'm doing. They play on NASN Saturday. So yeah. And there's six Bruins prospects on Boston College and one on BU, Jonathan Morello. So there's a total of 7 guys in the game if you're a Bruins fan to look out for.
Last thing I was going to bring up, because we did mention McAvoy talking. So I have a feature on weei.com that has, a bunch of the stuff he talked about and him talking about like feeling like his family needed a win with everything he's gone through and his family has gone through over the past year with obviously his injuries, the season-ending shoulder injury and infection last year, the broken jaw this year. We know that his son Reese was hospitalized with a medical issue right around that same time that he broke his jaw. They're actually like both in the hospital at the same time. So he talked about celebrating with his family and how his wife Kylie like collected letters that everyone in the family wrote that he read when he got over there before the opening ceremony, and then read them again before the gold medal game. So if people want to check that out, that's on weei.com. And then I know the other stuff that's gone viral from the last couple of days is Swayman and McAvoy and other players on both the men's and women's side react now that they're all back with their teams, commenting on mostly on the Trump joke on the post-game video that, we talked a bit about last podcast. So we don't need to rehash all that, but Swayman said he wishes the team would have reacted differently. McAvoy apologized. Both said it's just not a reflection of how we actually view the women's team. That's been a pretty common theme across all these guys now that have answered it. I was in the scrum with Zach Werenski Thursday morning too, after the Blue Jackets morning skate, and he addressed it as well. So, it feels like, to me, it seems like everyone has now gotten to the place where it should have been from the start, which is they are all embracing each other and are celebrating this together and do view it as them sharing it. As Brian said in the last one, just a momentary lapse where in the moment guys just weren't thinking about how they were reacting to it. So, I know those videos from posting them on WEI social accounts, those videos have drawn a lot of interest. So just wanted to briefly bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing for me before we go. The Bruins are playing the Flyers on Saturday at 3 p.m. So here's my question to you guys. Does Tanner Jeannot have to, tape some tinfoil on his knuckles and ask Delorier to go if he indeed was the one who concussed Zacha? That's not a fun fight for anybody. Delorier is he's a tough son of a gun. So is Jeannot. I'm not predicting that it happens, but there's a lot of prideful guys in that Bruins team that want to stand up for their teammates. And Zacha did miss time. He's one of their best players. Got a concussion. You guys expect any big bad Bruins Broad Street Bullies fireworks on a 3 p.m. matinee?
I feel like there's a pretty good chance. I feel like I give it a higher than 50% chance of either, and I'm not saying Jeannot either, maybe Kastelik.
I think it's probably Jeannot. I think Delorier might be a little out of Kastelik's. Kastelik is a heavyweight, but I think there's even levels to heavyweights. I think Jeannot probably is better off against
Jeannot's
Delorier.
Technical fighting form is better.
I think so.
Kastelik's psychotic though, he's gonna want to. So Jeannot probably just has to jump ahead of him in line and just
But
I mean, look at ABC national TV game. Yeah, I think both teams will maybe be leaning into entertainment value a little bit. I could see that.
I was actually wondering if one of those guys, and again, maybe Jeannot was on my mind, was going to go with Olivier last night just to kind of set the tone of, all right, we're back from break. Matthew Olivier, for my money, and I think many people's, he is the elite of the elite right now when it comes to fighters at the NHL level. He's just a absolute nail gun. So that would have been a tough fight for Jeannot or anybody to take after 4 weeks off, but I wasn't sure if that would happen just to kind of set the tone. It didn't, obviously, but they do play the Blue Jackets a few more times in the next couple of weeks here, so you never know. But I definitely expect something against the Flyers just because of how it played out with Zacha. I never saw the hit back. I'm sure it was just one of those. I don't know if he was even that dirty of a hit. Sometimes you get concussed from impact, but I don't know.
Delorier definitely he got him high, and there was kind of some elevation as he was throwing it. It wasn't directly to the head. I think he did get through the shoulder first, but then there was head contact. So, I don't think it was a suspension worthy hit, but there was, he got him high for sure.
Yeah.
Actually Zadorov and Olivier were chatting at one point. I don't know if that was just basic trash talk or if they were maybe discussing something, but I did see that at one point. One other thing, looking ahead on the schedule. So Bruins play Pittsburgh on Tuesday and next Sunday, March 8th. Pittsburgh will be without Sidney Crosby. His injury is going to keep him out a month. So, those meetings maybe coming at a pretty good time if you're the Bruins going against another team that, as of now, is obviously still in a playoff spot.
Speaking of Pittsburgh, can we talk just quickly? we keep expanding this episode, but the trade to send Tristan Jarry to Edmonton, I was kind of skeptical of it in the moment. It kind of seemed like a lateral move. I didn't really get it, but we all discussed what it's turned into since. But man, Edmonton's first couple games back, I mean, their first game, it's like a 5-5 game against the Ducks. I think Anaheim won late in regulation, maybe 6-5. And you just watch the Oilers play, and it's the same shit, different day, where they got two guys that can atone for a lot of defensive lapses. You got a couple of riverboat gamblers on defense with Boucher and Nurse at times, and the goaltending is just so leaky that I have a hard time seeing McDavid getting what he's ultimately looking for there with their goaltending issues and their team defensive issues at times. And we talked about Matthews earlier, but like McDavid signed a shorter deal with Edmonton. Like, you talk about him losing gold, talk about losing back-to-back cup finals. Like, there's only so much losing that the best player in the world can take before he's like, I got to get the fuck out of here. I got to go somewhere else. And I feel like if Edmonton doesn't get over that hump, like, I just think they could be in jeopardy of losing him when he's up. So it's an interesting time around the league, I think, these next couple of years for some of these teams.
I saw someone tweet that it was like the best goalie Connor McDavid has played with is ... Mike Smith ? And then like there's a separate line, and then it was like, and that somehow includes Team Canada.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's man, and you look at the Bruins and like you can go back, 20 plus. You can go back for a long time. Like I think we take for granted sometimes the goaltending we've had in Boston. Like, how far back do you want to go, Scott? You want to go back to the 80s? Like, let's just stick with the 2000s for right now. It's like, Byron Dafoe is your goalie in the early 2000s. You go from him to Raycroft. Raycroft wins, the Calder and
Malcolm Subban.
No, don't jump ahead too far. But you go Raycroft, and then you have a couple of years where it's like, okay, what are we doing here? Then Timmy comes in eventually, and then Tuukka, and those guys do what they do for 15 plus years, and Allmark and Swayman. It's just like goaltending is just not. It's polarizing always. But we talk about the Flyers, who they're playing tomorrow. Like, goaltending is, the Flyers haven't had a goaltender in forever. It's like there's certain teams where they're always looking for a goaltender and they can never find that guy. And here in Boston, I just feel like we've just gotten so fortunate with some of the guys we've had for the last 20 or 30 years. And again, even the 80s, like the days of Andy Moog and other guys, it's just, man.
No, but Boston Sports Radio tells me you can just find goalies anywhere. It's easy. Don't ever bother paying one.
And none of your goalies are ever the goalie that you should have, by the way. If you listen to Boston Sports Radio, it's like, I don't want Swayman. Back when they had like the best goalie tandem of all time, I don't want Swayman or Omar.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, don't get me wrong. Like there are certain games where like because we've had such good goaltending, there are certain games where you look back at like a certain Rask performance and you're like, okay, yeah, I feel like, you do expect more of him in a certain moment because he's so good. He also, had some amazing moments that people overlook. So there's but like, yes, like there's definitely games where like you can understand why people are a little bit frustrated because like, you should be better in that moment, even though it's a team sport. But still, it's like if we had the goaltending carousel that other organizations have had, man, it's just crazy. It really is. Who's the last good goaltender Philly had? When Philly went to the finals in 2010, they were splitting between.
Well, it's somebody. I think it is somebody who's currently blacklisted, but Carter Hart was good for a while.
Well, but even that though, it was like a hot start, but he, like, even once the whole suspension and all that stuff came, like he hadn't been great.
But like I said, 2010 when the Flyers went to the finals against the Blackhawks, that was a carousel between I think Michael Leighton and Brian Boucher. Like and it was a matter of like, all right, each guy's going to start until one gives up 5 goals, and it would happen like every 3 games.
I mean, they had Bobrovsky, they let him get away.
Right.
Yeah, the Ilya Brizgalov era.
Yup.
Which like he could be great, and then he could just be absolutely horrendous.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like I look at McDavid back to the Edmonton. It's like I don't know. Like can you see him be going somewhere else when his contract's up? When's he up? 2 years?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. Like if they can't build a legit winner by then, and obviously they've been close, they've been right on the doorstep. But yeah, I mean, this year's not looking great. Like they're going to make the playoffs because the Western Conference is bad, or I should say the Western Conference is not deep at all. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're certainly not looking like a Stanley Cup contender this year.
But if you're McDavid, don't you look at this situation and say, like, how many chances am I going to get here? Like you start to play the odds game, right? Like, all right, we've been twice in a row, and those are better teams. I just feel like you're not going to go to the Cup Finals every year with the same team. It's just not going to happen. So if I'm McDavid, I'm starting to play the odds too. Like, you know what I mean? You only get so many chances here in Edmonton.
He was real angry at a question the other day, which was a mean question. Did you see this on Twitter?
Yeah, that was
Twitter. It's like Crosby's won a gold medal and Gretzky's won a gold medal. Why can't you win anything? It's like a great question.
Yeah, Olympic gold and Stanley Cup seem to find Crosby and Gretzky, but they're not finding. It's like, well, first of all, they didn't find Gretzky and Crosby. They
weren't like, is this where the party's at? Oh.
Like they had great teams around them, and things have to go right. It's one of those things where it's like if Nathan McKinnon scores on a wide open net, we're probably talking about Canada being Olympic gold medalists, and it's like that question's not even asked.
This has been, and I knew it would be, so I'm just so happy, but this has been a golden week for Canadian media just trying to outdo itself from ripping McDavid, who led the entire Olympics in scoring in points, and Canada's probably not even in the gold medal game without him, to Bridge, I think you referenced this earlier, but Toronto columnist Damien Cox, who is what he is. Like, he's not in the locker room every day. He's just a hot take, lob a grenade type of guy. But ripping Austin Matthews, saying he made his choice because he went for a couple days for the U.S. celebrations, and then wasn't, he doesn't care about Toronto or whatever. And it's like, he didn't miss a game. But you can debate whether he played well Wednesday night in Tampa, but didn't actually miss a game, and yet he still gets ripped for how he celebrated.
I think it was Brian tweeted something about it, right?
Well, I think I just said something like, these are the types of headlines that sour a player on a team. It's like, he just won an Olympic gold medal for his country, and you have this hack columnist who's just, saying that he chose to celebrate an Olympic gold medal over the playoffs for Toronto. What are you talking about? What? It's it's like TMZ type shit. Some of these journalists with some of these publications, but yeah, and that's far from the first time that Matthews has been, the subject of negative headlines like that. I just think, do you think Mitch Marner is missing Toronto right now?
No.
The only thing he's missing about Toronto is the fact that his family is living in Ontario. But he's playing for one of the best teams in the league with beautiful weather, little to no media coverage in terms
people
of
aren't attacking him. Yeah.
So I mean, I think Matthews
living a good life these days. I think he's probably really enjoying his decision.
Yeah, and Matthews will be next. He'll be next. Good look, have fun with a 40-year-old John Tavares and Willie Nylander, who's whatever, and good luck. Just good luck. But anyway, I think that'll probably do it for this episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've tortured people long enough.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all very much for listening. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.